Hi, I'm Lindsay from Garden Hands, and today I get to start on my big project of the year. So every year I try to do something that's a little bit bigger, and by bigger I usually mean it's a little more labor intensive for me. And this project is really special to myself and my family. For a frame of reference where this project is taking place, it's going to be in our front yard, and the camera is somewhat close to our porch and is looking out into the front yard. There actually is a tree down there. I know it's really hard to see with the hayfield behind it, and it's a willow tree, so the branches and the leaves on it are pretty light colored green at the moment. We planted this last year, and it's grown quite a bit in the past year. I know they grow very fast, so I'm hoping in a few more years it'll start kind of branching out and the leaves will be falling a little bit more. So this garden has been in the planning stages for a couple of years, and it takes me a long time to commit to something that's going to cost me a little bit of money. And also, it's in our front yard. I wanted to make sure I did a good job researching the plants, that they were going to go in an appropriate location, that I was going to like how they looked. And when we drive from the road that way, if we're coming towards our house, there's nothing in our yard. Our house kind of sits up on a little bit of a hill, and so all you see is the side of the house. I wanted something that would kind of soften a little bit of the edges of our house. And I think with the willow tree getting 40 feet tall and wide and the soft lines of it, this was going to be the perfect start to that project of softening the house a little bit. As I mentioned, we're going to call this our memorial garden. Like most or all of you, we have been fortunate to have many people in our lives that we've loved, but we've had to say goodbye to. I thought this would be a good way to keep that visual reminder of those that we have had to say goodbye to. A lot of the people that we've had to say goodbye to have actually been avid gardeners or have loved color or having plants around them. So this is, to me, this seems like a fitting way to remember them. It's also a spot that my kids are kind of looking forward to. Obviously, we don't want them to forget about anybody, so this is a way for them to visually see a garden that has been dedicated to those that we've said goodbye to. Now, all that being said, probably the most memorable thing to do would be to plant flowers that each of those people has really loved or colors that they like. I don't know those flowers or all of those colors, so this garden isn't going to be made up of flowers and plants that they loved, but more of a tribute to those that we love. So I picked out the plants, but I have given my kids the task of picking out some kind of a sculpture or structure or something that they can put in here that is special to them. That way they've contributed to this particular flower bed, and that can be anything. It could be a bird bath or a birdhouse. It could be some kind of metal structure or sculpture. I will help them with, the size and the scale of it, so they don't go and pick some national monument sized object. Obviously that would be way outside the budget. Choosing the plants for this area has been an ongoing process for me. I knew when I thought of doing this garden, immediately I wanted to put a willow tree in here. I have loved willow trees since I was little, and I know my mom does not like them because she thinks they're sad and they're super messy. So I know going into this that this tree is going to drop leaves, its branches are going to break. They're not super hardy trees. However, it is in the perfect spot for a willow tree. It's full sun all day, and it's actually at the bottom of our yard, and there's a waterway that runs somewhat close to that. So it's going to get plenty of water, assuming we don't have a drought. And I think willow trees are almost magical. I love movement in plants, and a traditional tree like a maple tree, the leaves might rustle a little bit, the branches might sway a little bit, but with a willow tree and the branches trailing down, you get a movement with the whole tree. And to me, there's something just kind of calming and peaceful about that. I can picture my daughter sitting under the willow tree, maybe on a bench, and just reading all day long. So I don't know, there's just something about them that I really like. Plus, they you can cut the branches and they look great in an arrangement. The other plants in here I had a harder time with. I am a very visual person. I can research all day long what plants are appropriate for our zone, what colors I like, the bloom time, the height, the texture of the foliage. But in my head, I can't picture all the plants that I pick in a garden that's fully established. I can see individual pictures of plants and I can kind of copy and paste them onto a document to try and visualize it, but it doesn't really click in my head until I see a finished product. So I have done a lot of researching and looking for ideas on social media. Books have been a great inspiration. I've done a lot of research on plants that I might put in here, and to be completely transparent and to give kudos to the right place, most of this design is actually inspired by Laura from Garden Answer. She has amazing gardens. If you follow any gardening channels, I'm sure that's the one that you follow. And she has a willow tree. So after we put this willow tree in and I saw her, I think she has it around her Hebe statue. After I saw that willow garden, I started doing some research on the plants that she had in there. We have similar tastes in color schemes, so a lot of the plants might be similar. There were some that I changed because I didn't like the structure of them, or I couldn't get those plants this year. We also live in 2 zones colder than her, so some of the plants I changed just because we can't get the same plants to survive here. But her gardens are fantastic, and it was really nice to be able to see her garden throughout the year and the different stages of what things were blooming. So I will give credit where it's due, and we'll see how it turns out. Today is going to be hot. I think we're going to be above 90 again today. So it's not the ideal time to be working and doing a lot of heavy work in the yard, but I'm going to try and work in the morning, and then I'll probably spend some time indoors during the afternoon. And it's not the ideal time to put plants in the ground. However, do as I say, not as I do. Most of the plants that I have, I got them delivered a month ago, and I have been trying to keep them healthy and alive and happy outside my garage, but yesterday was 95 degrees and they got hit hard. So when I walk through the plants, please don't judge me by my plants. They don't look great today. I think they would be better off in the ground, get them watered in really well, and then they can kind of let their roots expand a little bit. Fingers crossed, everything will bounce back in a couple weeks or a month, and I'll have a better update for this. So what I think I'm gonna do, I ran out of cardboard, so I'm not going to be able to do the no-dig method on this bed, and because I want to get the plants in the ground right away, that's probably not the ideal method. I may put some cardboard in between plants just to make sure I don't have any weed pressure later on. I'm not quite sure. So how I'm going to design this bed, first I'm going to cart them over here and lay them all out. I want to really work on my spacing on this one. I know that tree is going to get huge. I think they get 40 by 40. So I want to make sure I don't crowd everything right under it. And as I mentioned, I want to be able to see the mulch in some places. So I need to make sure that I read all the tags and that I'm spacing them far enough away from other plants that they're not just going to overlap. Once I have them spaced out, I'm going to grab probably my extension cords just so you can see it on camera. And I'm going to make the border around the plant bed. Then we're going to come in with shovels, and I think we're going to remove this top layer of sod. That's hard work. I'm hoping I'm going to call on my reinforcement team, aka my husband. I don't know if he knows this yet, and maybe he can help me dig some of it up. I did take a couple days off next week, and the kids are up at the lake today, so it's a great day to work on the project. But it's going to be a lot of work. Once we get the sod or the grass pulled up, we're just going to compost it. We don't have anywhere else that we can really put it right at the moment. Then I'm going to bring in some compost, put that on top, probably work it in a little bit, and then I can get planting. I would like to mulch this area. I think that would really make it look nice and finished when I'm done. So that's what I'm going to be doing. I'm going to start placing these plants, how I think they're gonna go, I'm gonna start with the other tree that I have. The next layer of plants that I will lay out are my shrubs. The 9-bark, the roses, the peonies. Then I'm gonna fill in my perennials. So my hostas, my brunnera, my sedum, sage, my phlox, my yarrow. And then I'm going to add in some annuals, some petunias in the front. I have some dahlias, some gladiolus that I will put in this bed as well. Oh, I'm so excited. That is a large flower bed. That's gonna be a lot of digging. But I think the plants are gonna look beautiful here. After setting them out, I noticed a couple things. First, I have a hosta and a few brunnera that I put over here, and they're not gonna be in the shade for probably another year or so. I may not plant them out here right now. I might put them in what I call my hosta holding bed, and that's just a place that's fairly shaded that they can grow for another year or two. I don't want them to burn if I put them out right now. The next thing is that there are a couple plants in here where I may need to buy a few more. Again, I went a little cheap thinking I could get away with planting fewer, but for instance, there's a sedum towards the right-hand side. I think if I bought 2 more, I could kind of wrap it around in front of the denim and lace sage, and that would look better than just having 3 little plants there. Right now, how I have everything, they aren't intertwined very much. They're just a block of color and then another block of color, and they don't intersperse, and I think I would like that. The other thing is I had meant to put something behind the front row of phlox, and apparently I didn't buy anything. I do notice over by the spruce, I don't really end the garden over there, so I might put in some petunias or just an annual to finish that side off for this year, and then I'll think of something to kind of bring the layers down so it tapers off on the edge of that side. But I like how this is looking. It's gonna be really pretty down here. So there are some plants where I want them to touch and where you can't see there's a definite border. And then there's others that I want there to be a little bit of mulch that you can see around them. I'm gonna play around with the tape measure, make sure I have things kind of measured out so I don't have to move everything again in 3 years. I came in with my tape measure and my clipboard, and I spaced out the other tree and the shrubs and the perennials. I have a few more plants to buy that I think will help fill things out, but I'm pretty happy with the placement of things so far. So we'll do a quick little walkthrough, and hopefully I can have some more information pop up on the screen as we walk through this. So we'll start with the willow tree, and this is just a classic weeping willow. It's very cute. Look at it sway in the wind. I'm hoping it'll put on quite a bit of growth this year. We'll start over on the side. So these are the plants that I believe I'm going to put out in the holding bed. So the one tipped over is a Shadowlands Blue Lake hosta, and that gets huge. I think it gets about 42 inches wide. So it'll just be huge, beautiful leaves on the edge of this bed. It's not very tall, but again, it does prefer part shade or full shade, which clearly this location is not yet. Then the 3 in front of that are Queen of Hearts brunnera. And if you watched our May plant of the month, this type of plant was my runner-up plant. So I'm really excited to bring a little bit of that down here in the front yard. So behind the willow tree, I have 3 limelight hydrangeas. 1, 2, 3. And this will be a nice backdrop. Beautiful fall blooms, nice large shrub. This will just be a nice little hedge around the weeping willow. In the bag, I have irises, and they are blue. And then on the ground here, those are a couple dahlias. They'll come out at the end of the summer, so it doesn't really matter what I put there. I believe these are the lemonade variety, so they'll be light yellow. And then in front of the weeping willow, I have a row of, I think there's 7. These are opening act blush phlox. So they're a pinkish purple color. They're kind of a border plant. I think I'm gonna pick up just a couple more. I have a gap over here, and I might put a couple in as a second row so it looks a little bit more like a hedge. In the middle here, I have a Russian sage. So here I'm looking at the silvery bluish color foliage on this plant. It'll be a nice spike of purple. Butterflies love this plant. So I was looking for some plant that would be my next layer after these front phlox. And I want to put them kind of where the dahlias are right now. I was looking for something that had a dark foliage, so maybe a dark blue or more of a reddish hue. And I couldn't really find anything that I liked. It had to be a little bit taller. For the next, I don't know, 5 years or so, it could take part sun or sun. But after that, it's going to turn into shade. So do you have any suggestions? Something that would look good in that spot. It needs to not be green foliage though. The next layer that swoops around to the back there in these bags are the sorbet peonies. I have 3 of them, so they will kind of create a little bit of a ribbon behind my 9-bark here. This is a lady in red 9-bark, and this is beautiful right now. Again, this one got hit by the hot weather yesterday, so some of the leaves are still bouncing back, but beautiful deep maroon color on this. I think I'm really gonna like that. And it's a fairly manageable size. It gets about 6 feet tall and 4 feet wide. So it shouldn't take over the area. In front of the 9-bark, I have terracotta yarrow, and they look terrible right now. This is the worst plant. They got hit hard. I hope they bounce back. One of the 3 looks good. I have 3 here. They're kind of a buttercup yellow. They do have some blooms that are a little bit more orange colored, hence the terracotta name. And they get kind of tall. They do spread, so I imagine I might be able to, in a few years, divide some of these. And then in front of those, I have frosted fire sedum. And these, I believe, are somewhat similar to autumn joy. They have a pinkish color bloom in the fall, but they do have these beautiful variegated leaves, which is why I picked these. I needed something with a little bit lighter leaf structure in the front. They don't get real tall. Again, great pollinator on this one. This is one of the plants that I am most excited about. I have 3 Princess Charlene de Monaco roses, and I saw a picture of these on Instagram from High Country Roses, and they took my breath away. They were just beautiful. Light pink, peach, apricot colors. They aren't very large. They get about 5 feet tall, but they're only about 2 to 3 feet wide, so perfect shrub rose. They're said to have an amazing fragrance, and they make a good cut flower. So that checked a lot of the boxes that I was looking for when I wanted some roses here. I also put in 2 more denim and lace sage right behind the roses. This was not in my original design or intent, but I had a space here between the 9-bark and my spruce. And I think these will fill in fairly fast. They will be a little bit of a nice purple color that ties it in on this side to the other side. The last perennial I have are the Cardona Sage. They have a pinkish purple, like a deep pink purple spike flower on them. This is another one where I may want to pick up a couple more. So I have 3 over here, and I think this space could call for 5 or maybe even 7. And then right behind them, I have the Fat Albert Spruce. And this is a smaller type of spruce tree. I love the blue needles on it. He's gonna get, I think, about 15 feet tall and about 10 feet wide, so it's not very big. However, he will provide winter interest, which we desperately need in this front yard, and it will help to soften that side of the house during the winter as well. So I kind of am excited about having this and the willow tree. This will be kind of our first border plants in the front yard. So I'm really excited about this. The next step is to grab the extension cords and to start framing in the bed. What I want to keep into consideration, I know there are no utility lines out in this area. We did have all of that marked a few years ago, and I made a little bit of a map. So I know there are none run out here. And the other thing that I am notorious for is not making my beds large enough to account for the flowers growing and expanding. So I want to make sure that I leave plenty of room along the edge that I can still see mulch and the flowers are not draping over into the yard. The extension cord is out, And I hope I did an okay job. This is just a rough guideline. I had an extension cord on hand. I thought it would be a little easier to see it in the video and while we're digging. You can use anything to do this outline. You could use spray paint, you could use sticks, garden hose, flour from your kitchen. That'll wash away in the rain. Anything to help you get an idea of what you want your flower bed to look like. I tried to leave plenty of room around this spruce tree at the end. It will get 10 feet wide. I imagine I will want to put a shorter layer in front of it, even on the back. So I left plenty of room to do that. And we've got a Gus appearance. Checking things out. He's the supervisor. He likes the roses. So the next step, I will probably take some pictures of where I have the plants, and then I might even spray paint where the bigger shrubs are, just so I get an idea of where I have things. I'm going to start digging. I have my wheelbarrow. I will get a couple shovels, put on some tennis shoes, and I'm going to start pulling up this top layer of grass. This could take a while. This may take a few days. Well, we'll call that a wrap for day one. It got to be 95 degrees after 2.5 hours of working. If you have any ideas of a plant I can put behind my phlox that's a little bit taller and has darker foliage, please let us know in the comments below. Stay tuned for part 2 of this memory garden. Hit the like button, subscribe to our channel, and we'll see you in the next one. Bye!